I'm gonna show you how to make badass thumbnails on Gimp.
Hear that? What? I said damn it. Damn it!
Okay, so what we want to do is go ahead first and open up Gimp. And I have Gimp 2.1. So we're going to go ahead, follow through here, and what we want to do is we want to start out with a new file. And all we got to do is click File, New. We want to make sure it is 1280 by 720. And we also want to make sure that it is transparency. If it's not in transparency, I always double check. If it's not in transparency, all we got to do is come down, click it, hit OK. And then we've got a 1280 by 720 background there. I drop it down to 75%. Just go ahead, hit 75% and you're good. And I usually start out with my text first. And what I want to do there is you're going to make everything in layers. So it's going to be, you're going to have one layer sitting on top of another layer, sitting on top of another layer. But first off and foremost, I hit text and I go ahead, I make my text block. And I usually use Impact Condensed. You can go online and see what the most used text are or fonts are for YouTube thumbnails. Go online, they'll tell you, and you can just go ahead and use that. But I use Impact Condensed. It's kind of stands out bold. With regards to that, it depends on what your channel's about or what you're talking about during that video or vlog. So let's go ahead and do this. I make sure that it is in cap lock. And let's do a color that's going to pop here. I'm going to do yellow. And that's the one thing that you want to do. You want to make sure that your text pops. It's out there. And I usually do it about 125 pixels. And let's call this badass. Oop, here we go. Badass. And each one I do separately. So I just write one thing at a time, and then what I'll do is I'll come down here in the corner, I'll left click that one time so it shrinks it, and I'll do another one, and let's make a new layer. I'll do another one. Always make sure you're in that layer, so you're going to want to go ahead and you're going to want to highlight it. We got the text. And let's go ahead and put, let's call this badass channel. Let's see here, 125. We'll do that in yellow. Channel, come down, left click, and then we will go ahead and do another one. And we'll call it thumbnails. Thumbnails. 125. We'll do it in yellow. And I'm going to show you how to make this text really pop here in a second. Thumbnails. Badass channel thumbnails. Okay, so now what we want to do here, and the reason I do this on all separate layers is so that I can move things around. I'm going to come up and I'm going to hit my move tool, and I go ahead and I want to make sure the crosshairs are on the text so that I can move it. There we go. Oh, let's go ahead and let's get this down a little bit. Left click it. So we'll go ahead, back up to the move tool, and then we can move this around. And now this just so happens these I can move around without having to highlight all the different we'll call these channels, all the different channels here. So I'm going to start out with thumbnails first. What I'm going to do to make this pop, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to right click and then alpha to selection. And now you can see everything is outlined there. And then I'm going to come over to select, grow, And I like to bring it anywhere between 8 and 10. So that outline right there is going to grow. And you can kind of see right there how it grew a little bit. But now I got to come down to the layer underneath it. This layer underneath it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bucket fill it. And let's go ahead and do this pink right here. And we want to make sure we are on that. We are highlighted on that transparency layer and not the text layer there. We want the transparency layer, and boom, we got it to go ahead and outline. Now, we're going to do one more thing here. I'm going to go ahead and select none. And let's go ahead now. I'm going to highlight this channel right here that I just did pink. So it would be this channel right here that I just did pink. I'm going to go ahead, alpha to selection. And then I am going to add another layer. Now I want to make sure this new layer that I just made is underneath this alpha to selection, or this channel right here. So I go ahead, I highlight it, and I just get it underneath there. So now I've got my original text right here, which is right there. Then I have my pink text, which is now outlined, or it's an alpha selection, which is right there. But now I want to go ahead and I want to go ahead, highlight the pink. We want to select, grow. We're going to go ahead and do that 8. And then we're going to come down to the transparency channel or layer, that transparency layer right there. And nope, I'm going to go back. I take that back. Let's go ahead and undo that. Undo grow selection. I just want to go ahead and I'm going to select grow that by 3. So we go ahead, select grow that by 3. Now I'm going to go ahead, highlight my transparency layer right there. And let's see, I'm going to bucket fill. Let's click that, left click it one time. And let's go ahead and do that black. And voila. And now we have it kind of popping there. So right now, being there is no background right there, you really can't see the pop to it, but once we get going here, you're going to be able to see it. Now, I'm going to go through each of these, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to keep you going all the way through it. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward it now. Okay, so now that we've got all of our text kind of outlined there with it popping a little bit, what I'm going to do is I am going to merge those 3 things together. So I'm going to left click, right? I'm going to go on the channel with the text on it where it says thumbnails. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go ahead and merge down, and I will merge down one more time, and I will do the same thing on the new one right there, that new text layer. I'm going to go ahead and merge them down, and one more, and then I'm going to go ahead and do it on the third one, merge down. Okay, so now what this enables me to do is now these are all interconnected together. I'm going to go ahead and, if you can kind of see right here, I'm going to go ahead and use my move tool. Now, when you have your move tool, you got to just make sure the crosshairs are on the lettering, and I can go ahead and I can move that anywhere that I want. Let's go ahead. Let's do that there. And again, this is all for the better sake of argument here. Then what I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make something pop a little bit more. I'm going to add another layer. Remember, we always want to work on a new layer so that we're able to move layers around. So let's go ahead, work on another layer. I'm going to put that all the way underneath. I want to put that underneath all of the text right there. So I'll put it underneath all of the text. I'm going to make a box. And let's see, I make that box. And let's go ahead and fill that box. What color can we fill that box there? So let's go ahead and fill that box with, let's go ahead and fill it. Let's come up with a color here. Let's do it a little bit darker shade of purple here. So now I got, this is my foreground, this is my background. So this is going to be the foreground. Boom. I went ahead and filled it. And this is, again, this is just real simple stuff right here. Real basic creating thumbnail art. But now watch what I do right here. So let's go ahead now. Let's move with the move tool. Let's select none. And we're going to move this right over here. Move it right on top. And we are then going to go ahead with the perspective tool. And there we go. Let's kind of move it a little bit. So give it a little pop to it. As you can see, there we go. Let's go ahead and move that a little bit. And let's get it kind of, all right, you can just kind of eye it out right there. But then what I want to do is, if you notice, it's kind of fuzzy. So let's make sure we're on that. Let's go into filters. Let's go into enhance. Then we're going to come down to unsharp mask. Now, it gives you a preview. Let's find, where is it? There it is. There it is. So it gives us a little bit of a preview here. There we go. So it gives us that little bit of a preview. So we can kind of see, right, if we mess with the threshold there, I take the threshold all the way down to 0 and go ahead. Okay, sharpened it up a little bit. So it looks a little bit better now. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I am going to put that, let's put that layer right there underneath that. I'm going to merge this down. Let's go ahead and make sure it's exactly where we want it to be. And let's make sure it's right where we want it to be. And let's go ahead. Now remember, if I want to merge a layer, I want to make sure, right, I want to merge this layer on top of this purple rectangle. So I want to make sure it's underneath my layer that I'm working on, that I'm highlighted. Go ahead and merge down. And now I'm able to move this anywhere I want. I can do the same now here. So we got badass channel thumbnails. Okay, so let's move along. So now we have, right, so now we have a transparent background. We started out, and let's go ahead and let's go ahead and enhance this a little bit more. Unsharp mask legacy. We'll go ahead, do what we got to do. There we go. Kind of sharpened it up a little and gave it a little flair to it. Not too shabby, not too shabby. Okay, so now moving along here. Now I want to put another background onto here. So I want to put, let's see, I want to open up and let's go. I know exactly what I want. And let's see, the Puerto Rico flag. So let's go ahead and use that. That's going to open up on a different palette. So I want to make sure that this is, what, 1280 by 720. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to scale the image right here. Now the easy way to do that, I unlock this, 1280, 720. And that is going to be the same size palette now as this palette right here. We're going to come over. Let's go back over here. Let's create a new layer. But this layer right here is because I want that in the background. I'm going to bring this layer all the way down. So now that layer is right there. That's all the way in the background right there. Let me go ahead and put it on top first. My bad. Go ahead and put it on top first because I want to set that on top of all of this. And let's go ahead, just Control C, and we can go ahead and we're going to paste. That's all we got to do, paste. Now, if you notice right there, it says floating selection. We got to go ahead and anchor that. So we right click that and we anchor that layer. Now we're going to bring that layer down. Okay, so we brought that layer down. Pretty simple so far, right? But real cool. Now I want to highlight that layer because that's the layer I'm working on. So technically it's like as if these layers aren't even there. So we can go ahead and get rid of those. So now I just want to work on this layer right here. But what we don't want with a thumbnail background, if you are putting some kind of image on the background like this, we want to kind of blur it out because our focus wants to be on what? Wants to be on the words, or this text right here is a clickbait, more or less. So what you want to do is go ahead and make sure that the focus isn't on the background. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go back again to filters, blur, Gaussian blur. Again, guys, this is real simple stuff. And all I'm going to do is kind of grab it. And you can kind of see it blurring it out. So it blurs it out. Real simple. To your liking. I do it about 20. And there we go. So now see how that kind of pops right there. Now I kind of want to move these around a little bit. Oops. Let's not go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and hit our move tool again. And we are going to move these around. Remember, as long as you are left clicking on the words, you can go ahead and move it. And we'll line this up one last time though before what's all said and done, because now we're going to do something super cool here. And I will be fast forwarding it again, but we're going to do something super cool. And let's go ahead, open up one more image. So we're going to open up one more image, and let's see here. Let's open up this one. Now, this is going to be, let's see here. Okay, so this is going to be where I fast forwarded a little bit. But what we're going to do, and I'm going to show you here, is I want to go ahead and I want to increase my percentage. Increase it to about 200%. And I'm going to explain why. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my paths tool. I'm going to click that. And what we're going to do, might even want to take it up to about 250. Let's go 275. So 275, because what I want to do is I want to get close to the edge, because I don't want to do a lot of erasing, because erasing is not as it's not very accurate or whatnot. So I'm going to try to get it as close as possible, and we're going to start right here, and I'm going to go ahead. Let's go ahead here. As long as you got straight lines, you can kind of do a little bit longer. It'll follow it pretty nice. I can do a little bit longer. Okay, let's go ahead and start fast forwarding it. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to bring this back down to around 66.7%. I have to come outside of the picture, which is no big deal. So we can go ahead and do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and speed it up again. Let me come into this corner right here. And there we go. Let's go ahead and increase the size there to about 275. And let's go ahead and start speeding this up again. Now, mind you, before I do, it is okay to, kind of get in on the color there. It's not going to hurt because what we're going to do is we're going to fill that out, though. And you'll see what happens once I go ahead and get this all cut out. But let's go ahead and speed this up. Now, let's go ahead and bring this back down to about 66.7. We're going to come to the outside of this. And we're going to come up. Now, what we have to do is we have to go ahead and put the crosshairs on the first cut that we made. Press Control. And we connect all those together. And then we're going to come over. Make sure that's highlighted. We're going to go ahead and right-click. Alpha to selection. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go Selection from Path. Now what we can do is we can go ahead, Control Copy or Control C. So we're going to go ahead and create a new layer. And then we are going to go ahead and edit. We're going to paste. And we're going to move me first. Let's move me. Look at that. Look at me move around. Pretty cool, eh? So now I went ahead and moved. Now what I want to do is we move that. I want to go ahead, anchor that layer onto that transparency layer right there. We went ahead, anchored that. And I am going to go ahead. I want to increase the size because you can kind of see a little bit of a red on the outline there. So let's go ahead and increase it to about 200. And what I don't want to do with this, I don't want to be too harsh on getting that. So I'm just going to work on this layer right here. And we're going to go ahead and hit the erase tool. 20. I don't want the hardness. I don't want it to be super hard. A hardness. So let's go ahead, bring that down. The hardness, let's bring it down to about 35. We're going to bring the spacing down to 0 and the size of it around 20. So what's going to happen there is it's not going to, all right, let's go ahead, undo that a little bit. Undo eraser. And let's just kind of be gentle right along there. Get some of that red out of there. Because again, I'm not really... I just want to soften it up a little bit. Let's even go a little bit softer than that. So I only want to do a hardness of that much. So let's try to soften it up. I'm kind of a perfectionist about this. So let's go ahead, soften it up a little bit more. And we just real gentle. Real gentle. All right. But again, like I said, it's okay if it's kind of goofed up a little bit, and you'll see why in a second. So we're good there. Let's go down, take a look here. Again, I just want soft. Like smooth it out a little bit. Doesn't have to be too much. Let's kind of take a look here. So watch what we do now. Let's go ahead. Let's come back out. And we'll bring it out to about 75%, but I want to move it just a little bit more. So let's see here. Let's grab our move tool. Let's go ahead and move that just a little bit. And watch what we do. We're going to make this pop. Now, we always see it on all these YouTubers and all these vloggers or whatever, this real cool like outline. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. So we want to go ahead. We want to make sure that we are we're highlighted. We're going to add another layer. And let's make sure. Let's bring that down. So that layer. So here I am right here. That layer is underneath me, that transparency layer. So let's go ahead, but highlight the layer of the image. We're going to go ahead, alpha to selection. We're going to grow this. We're going to come over to select and grow. And we're going to grow this. Let's see here. Grow it to about 12. And watch what we do. We're going to then go ahead and let's outline this. But we got to go ahead, go to the transparency layer. Now we want a bucket fill. Let's outline. Just click it once. Outline it in white. Press OK. And voila. And you can kind of see how it has that outline that pops. But now what I want to do, see if we go ahead and do that. There we go. So we just made it invisible. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and merge that down now. And I want to move this just a skosh. And there we go. Okay, so super simple. Super simple. And let's go ahead, select none. And we can kind of see right here. So let's move these layers around a little bit. We don't want to be too close to the top there because otherwise it gets cut off. And let's see. Let's kind of even this out. And again, all you got to do is just kind of eye it. We got a pop to it. Now, we went ahead, we can merge all these down, but I don't like to do it in case I want to change something up. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to save this. This way it's going to save it in Gimp, and we'll call this Joe Thumb. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to export this. I'll put it on my desktop. Let's go ahead, Joe Thumb. We're going to export it to my desktop. And watch what happens here. And we want to click OK. Now we're going to come down. Let's take a look at it. Boom. So this is a badass channel thumbnail. Guys, thanks a lot for sticking through this. And I hope you get a lot out of it for you beginners. And I will be going over some more advanced stuff. But let's go ahead and get this started out now. Get you rocking and rolling on creating some badass YouTube channel thumbnails.